Now that we have talked plenty about how to use an array list, let's go ahead and actually focus on writing one. So I'm going to make my array list, which I'll just simply call array list from now on. Why are we going to do that? Well, it's because I don't want to make my own list interface. So I'm not going to implement list. I'm not going to implement the list interface. So this is our custom-made class. It's not actually going to be a Java list, but that's perfectly fine because it will still work the same as an actual array list. So the only thing I added over here was an E. So this is my array list, an array list of E's. I'm calling it my array list so that, by the way, that I can still use an array list in this folder. That way we can keep separate whether it's Java's implementation or my implementation. So let's go ahead and see full screen. So my array list of E's. What is E? E is going to be whatever type we create for an array list on the fly. So how does an array list work actually? How did we, because we're going to use this array list to implement all those things that a list can do. The inserting things, the removing things from random places, the dynamic resizing. Well, we're going to use an array. And we're just going to cheat because you can't actually resize arrays. But we're going to cheat, and the user doesn't need to know that we're cheating. That's the wonders of encapsulation. So let's go ahead and write our instance variables. So private. So there's a couple things we need to keep track of for this list. Let's go ahead and start with the basics. Private int size. Now the size of a list is going to be how many items are currently in the list. So that's very important because I'll introduce another term soon that means something very similar. So we've got private int size. Next, since we're going to be using an array to hold everything in here, we should probably create an array. E private. Let's call it what? We can call it data, but we can actually call this the list. Private array of E's. What is E? Right, so if the user creates a my array list of integers, then it will become a list of integers. Okay. Finally, let's go ahead and so we've got our list, we've got our size, which is the number of items that are in this array. And then finally, we will need a final variable called the capacity. Now the capacity, private int capacity is equal to 10. I can start it off there. I'll do everything in the constructors. The capacity is how many items the array list can actually hold, the underlying array can actually hold. So if we create our underlying array with 10 items that has a capacity of 10, we can put up to 10 items in it. When we put in our first item, it has a size of 1 but a capacity of 10. Put in our second item, size of 2, capacity of 10. Put in our fifth item, after putting in our third and fourth, size of 5, capacity of 10. Right? So the capacity is how many items it can hold. It is equal to the length of this list, and we're just having it as a separate variable because we want to make sure, because it's just easier that way. So that should be all we need. So we're going to make ourselves a default constructor. So public my array list. And that is going to take in, and notice in the constructor we don't need a generic over here. So it's going to take in nothing. So we're going to say, hey, the size is equal to 0. That makes sense for everybody, right? Empty. We're making an empty array list. We're going to set the capacity to be equal to 10. So this is the default capacity, I believe, that Java uses. So might as well use it ourselves. And the reason is because if we made a default capacity of, well, this much, right, of 10 million items, and then it only ended up using like 15, be a bit of a waste of space. So we're just going to keep it small, and then we'll increase the capacity as needed. How? We'll show you. But it involves cheating. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is, let's see, add in the we actually have to make the array. And the reason I hesitate there is because it is a bit of a hack. This is the only hacky part of it. You don't have to remember how to do it, but it's off. But I hate having to do it this way. New object array capacity. So this is the correct way to do it, or rather the best way I have to do it, because, and it will give me a warning, because instinctually you want to go list of E is equal to new, or this list is equal to new array of E's capacity, but Java doesn't let you do that. It doesn't let you make any new E's because you don't know what the constructors will be. So you don't know necessarily how that will work. Mind you, it would just create a list of nulls. So one option, I suppose, let me try this. I've never actually tried this before. I suppose I could make a null, a null. Does that work? No, it does not, right? Because I'd have to do that over here, right? So anyway, now making so we don't know what the constructor will be, so Java's very hesitant to let us make any new E's, but it's just going to be a bunch of nulls. So we're going to create a bunch of new objects instead, right? And those used up the same amount of memory in an array, right? Everything in the array, since it's an array of any kind of object, it's going to be, or whatever object we put in here, it's going to be a memory location, and all memory locations are the same size. So new array of object of the capacity that we determined, and then we just cast it into an array of E's. If you don't understand that, that's perfectly fine, because you're not going to see it again. You're only going to see it once more, and you don't really need to memorize it. So, and notice it just does it give us a warning? Yes, it's unchecked, saying that, hey, you sure you can do that? And normally this would be dangerous, except we're creating a bunch of nulls here, so that's perfectly fine. We're creating 10 nulls, and then we're storing them in list. So that's the only weird part.